Good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank everyone for coming to this very important meeting of the City Council as we do the people's work. At this time, would you please stand for the invocation, which will be given by the Honorable Dr. Curtis Edmonds, Sr., followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Dr. Edmonds.
Gracious God, we thank you for the day. We thank you for awakening us up this morning with the finger of love and bringing us to this point where we can share in the business of Portsmouth. We thank you, Lord, for those who have come to attend, those who shall speak, and those of us who sat here, Lord, that we might listen intently and give answers as we can. And Lord, we ask that you be in the midst of us. Bless us, bless all those that came and on the way. We give you glory and praise for this day. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Members of City Council, please indicate your presence electronically.
7 members of City Council are present.
Okay, very good. Members of City Council, you have before your consideration the minutes of a call meeting of September the 23rd, 2013, a call meeting of September the 24th, 2013, and a regular meeting of September the 24th, 2013. Are there any corrections to the minutes?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please conduct yourselves electronically.
Okay, very good.
The minutes have been adopted 7-0.
Okay, very good. Madam Clerk?
Yes. 13-421, presentation. Presentation of a proclamation to Dr. Rosalind Sanderlin and Laura Armstrong. If Dr. Sanderlin and Ms. Armstrong would please meet the mayor at the Sergeant-at-Arms desk.
Well, good afternoon. It is finally, join me right here if you would. We are finally here at this day. We have been hearing about this I.C. Norcom Centennial Celebration for a year and been planning every much that same amount of time frame. Well, it's indeed an honor and a pleasure for us as City Council and members of the Portsmouth family to be able to recognize and congratulate the I.C. Norcom Greyhound family for 100 years. Absolutely. Let's give them a hand. Now, the celebration has already started. We started Sunday. We had a very interesting history makers, if you will. I think we had about 5 or 6 of our former principals, along with Dr. Sanderlin, that actually gave some real deep testimonies. And I think Mr. Randall there was one of the most impassionate and he just laid it out about his love for I.C. Norcom, what it means to step through those doors and to do all of the different things. So I've got this proclamation here that I want to present to the principal and the president of the Alumni Association. But before I do this, we want to get a couple of comments from them so everybody here and everybody watching on television will know all of the festivities that we've got planned for this week. And if you notice, the mayor is decked out in his maroon and gray. That's right. No, this is the only one I've got. So when you see me Sunday and I'm still in it, you might not want to get too close. But with that, let me turn it over to Dr. Sanderlin, and then we'll present the proclamation.
Good evening to each of you. We are certainly delighted that we
have the opportunity to stand before you and just receive this proclamation. For it is a great historical event, for we're recognizing IC Norcom as having a rich history for over 100 years, and that is something to applaud our school, our city, and our educational department for such a great proclamation and history. And so we invite you to continue to come out for the remainder of the week for some of the celebrity celebratory things that we're doing for the public, for the school. As the mayor talked about on Sunday, we had a great historical History Remembered is what it's called. So I'm trying to think of the name of it. But we had the former principals who came in. I actually learned a lot, starting from Lindale Wallace and even from Mr. Vernon Randall, who actually came in. And so our speaker, our hostess, was Ms. Leah Stiff, who actually brought out a lot of history that was to be remembered as well. And so we had a good time with that. We have a lot of other things that are actually planned in school, during school, after school. Our President Armstrong, she's going to share with you some of those things as well. But again, we are so grateful to be able to stand before you to receive such a proclamation, and we're just excited. We invite each of you to come out to visit the school, to visit IC Norcom High School.
Good evening to each and one of you, our mayor, the board, those in attendance. First of all, I'd like to ask the members of the IC Norcom Alumni Association Incorporated if you would please stand. All graduates of IC Norcom, anyone that has graduated from IC Norcom? Faculty and staff of IC Norcom. And the PTA president of IC Norcom. Our theme, this is it, the celebration of the century. And indeed, it will be a celebration. We thank you all for all of your efforts and all of your support as we planned these activities. We hope that you join us on Friday at the game, and then we have a meet and greet. On Saturday, we have a parade and our gala, which will be on Saturday evening, and Sunday, our worship service at Third Baptist. We ask that you come and you participate and you help us celebrate the 100 years of the greatest high school, IC Norcom High School. We thank you.
Thank you all very much. This proclamation reads as follows. Whereas 2013 marks the 100th anniversary of our beloved IC Norcom High School located on London Boulevard in Portsmouth, Virginia. And whereas the IC Norcom High School Alumni Association Incorporated will hold a centennial celebration reflecting upon a century of growth and improvement at the Renaissance Portsmouth Hotel and Conference Center on October the 11th through the 13th, 2013. And whereas the school, originally known as the High Street School, was founded in 1913 as the first high school for black students to attend and was located at the True Reformers Building on 915 High Street. And whereas it was renamed IC Norcom in 1953 in honor of its first supervising principal, Israel Charles Norcom, who was described as a pioneer educator, a leader of his people, a churchman, a civic leader, businessman, guidance counselor, and an outstanding citizen who guided with intelligence and wisdom. And whereas in more recent years, IC Norcom made history with the only high-stepping marching band to win back-to-back national championships and being ranked #1 in the nation for 2 consecutive years. And for their boys basketball team, who won the 2010 and 2011 AAA Virginia State Championship. And whereas Mr. Norcom's contributions to Portsmouth's educational heritage are acknowledged by all facets of the community, and each future principal has carried on the Norcom tradition by instilling the pride and the values in the youth of our future, making the IC Norcom Greyhounds what they are today. Now, therefore, I, Kenneth I. Wright, Mayor of the City of Portsmouth, Virginia, do hereby proclaim October the 11th through the 13th, 2013, as IC Norcom's 100th anniversary celebration days in the City of Portsmouth, and urge our citizens to acknowledge and celebrate this significant anniversary and the successes that have occurred over the past century, and witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of Portsmouth, Virginia, to be affixed at this 8th day of October, 2013, signed Kenneth I. Wright, Mayor. Congratulations. Now, I wouldn't dare let you sit down. I think we've got one alum, Dr. Curtis Edmonds, and the mayor. I'm class of 2011. Okay, Miss let me explain. As the song say, I've got papers. In 2010, after I was elected, Miss Lynn Briley brought the mayor over and bestowed upon me an honorary degree. So I am a Greyhound. Now, y'all talked the other night, all of the principals came up, and they made it abundantly clear to everyone in attendance that those Greyhounds let you know when you're not a Greyhound. And I think the only principal that we had that was a Greyhound was Miss Lynn Briley. And I think she was the first female principal. And so I am proud to be a Greyhound with, what class is that, Bishop? The best class, class of 67. Thank y'all very much. God bless you. Have a wonderful celebration. All right, thank you. Okay, well done. Madam Clerk?
City Council rules require a limit of up to 5 minutes to speak. When you approach the podium, you will see a timer. At the beginning of your 5 minutes, you will see a green light. At 4 minutes, you will see a yellow light. At 5 minutes, you will see a red light, hear a beep, and we ask that you conclude your remarks. City Manager's Report. 13-422. Adoption of a resolution authorizing the city manager to designate the Portsmouth Redevelopment and Housing Authority as the city's agent to apply to the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development for a grant under the Industrial Revitalization Fund program to fund the acquisition of property located at 1021 High Street by the Greater Portsmouth Development Corporation. Vision Principle, a robust economy for working men and women. Electronic roll call, and I have no registered speaker. Second. We have a motion and a second. Please conduct yourselves electronically. This item has been adopted 7-0. New business. 13-423, boards and commissions. Mr. Moody.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mayor's member of council, we have no boards or commissions to discuss tonight. But as always, we need volunteers. If you're interested in serving our city in many different capacities, I invite you to go to our website, www.portsmouthva.gov, and check the boards and commission vacancies. And you can also apply online, or you can call the clerk's office. They will accommodate you, but once again, we need volunteers in a lot of different areas and would love to have you serve our city. Thank you.
13-424, items submitted by council members. Adoption of a resolution requesting the Governor of Virginia and the Secretary of Transportation to work together to devise a plan that will allow the operation of I-264 downtown tunnel to be open to two-way traffic during the rehabilitation work. Electronic roll call. I have a registered speaker, but before I call him up, I'm going to read the resolution in its entirety. If citizens want to follow along, it is attached to the agenda that was in the boxes. Whereas the Virginia Department of Transportation and the Elizabeth River Crossings have undertaken the Midtown Tunnel, MLK expansion, and downtown tunnel rehabilitation projects, and whereas as part of these projects, VDOT and ERC are closing the westbound tube of the I-264 downtown tunnel from Norfolk to Portsmouth for 25 weekends for a 10-month period that began on August 9, 2013, and will continue through May 2014. And whereas, because of these complete weekend closures, Portsmouth residents, businesses, visitors, and motorists have been severely negatively impacted, and whereas the Portsmouth Downtown Business District has experienced a loss of revenue estimated at approximately 30% as a result of these weekend closures, and whereas the continuation of complete weekend closures could potentially cause our downtown business district to suffer a revenue loss of over 50%, which would have a devastating impact on the economy and local finances of the city. And whereas the Midtown Tunnel is inadequate to handle the additional volume of traffic due to the weekend tunnel closures, thus creating further impact on businesses, residents, and visitors of Portsmouth. And whereas in the event of a stoppage in the Midtown Tunnel, no reasonable alternative routes remain for westbound traffic from Norfolk to Portsmouth on the affected weekends. And whereas Portsmouth City Council desires to have VDOT and ERC develop a plan that would allow the eastbound tube and the downtown tunnel to have two-way traffic on these weekends. And whereas Portsmouth City Council desires the Governor of Virginia and the Secretary of Transportation cause VDOT and ERC to devise such a plan. And whereas, given the immediate and severe revenue losses suffered by the downtown businesses in Portsmouth, time is of the essence. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Portsmouth, Virginia, that it hereby requests the Governor and the Secretary of Transportation to take all steps necessary to expeditiously devise and implement a plan that would allow two-way traffic in the eastbound tube during the weekend closures for rehabilitation work adopted by the City Council of the City of Portsmouth, Virginia, at a meeting held on October 8, 2013.
Okay. And before she continues on, I'm going to yield the floor to Councilman Moody, but I want to at least update the public here on how we came about this. And as you know, for the last 4 weeks, the tunnel closures, the westbound lanes have been closed, and we have been doing unofficial surveys throughout the downtown area to get the impacts. And last council meeting, I think we had several of our business owners to come up and actually convey to this council that they needed something right away. We immediately took action. After talking with them, I think we had a meeting, Mr. Rowe, what day was the meeting? Was it Wednesday?
Yes, sir.
I think it was Wednesday of last week. We had a meeting here with most of the businesses in attendance and tried to devise some type of plan. And from that meeting, we actually crafted several letters to the 3 members of the Commonwealth Transportation Board and expressed our concerns to them. We have got acknowledgement from the chair of that board that they are in receipt of the letter and that they will be contacting VDOT and ERC and trying to see if we can't come to some resolution. Coupled with that, yesterday I had the pleasure and honor of attending the governor's mansion. The mansion is 200 years old this year, and the governor had a reception for mayors throughout the Commonwealth, and I took the golden opportunity to speak with the governor about the tunnel closures. He seemed surprised. We actually had quite a bit of conversation about it, and he also through his chief of staff, instructed his chief of staff to contact the Secretary of Transportation. I shared with him those same numbers. So this kind of memorializes some of those actions that we have taken since the last meeting and since the tunnel closures has been in place. Have I missed anything there? John? I'm sorry, Mr. Manager?
No, sir.
Okay. Mr. Moody?
Thank you, Mayor. Before I move that we adopt this resolution, it came about last night in a meeting with our General Assembly delegation. A couple of those members were in attendance. And we're going to do a double-barrel approach. They're also going to draft a letter to the governor, to the Secretary of Transportation, requesting the same, and that's some relief from the tunnel closures. Could be in the form of bidirectional traffic. VDOT has said that some safety factors, but a lot of us in this audience can remember when there was one downtown tube and traffic was bidirectional. And anybody who recently traveled the Midtown Tunnel knows very well that it's also bidirectional. So it's no reason why one of those tubes can't be bidirectional, why they work on the other tube. But we're going to give it a double-barreled approach. The businesses in Portsmouth have certainly made it very clear that it's hurting their business. People can't get to Portsmouth. I purposely tried to get here on Saturday using the Midtown Tunnel, and you're talking about a parking lot down Bramilton Avenue. That's exactly what it is, and I can see firsthand why someone would be discouraged to come this direction. I would like, Mayor, along with what we do here tonight, I think we should also call upon Norfolk and the other mayors, maybe even Suffolk and Chesapeake, for their councils to adopt a similar resolution. And hopefully, by putting the force of elected officials locally and the General Assembly delegations, that somebody will come to some common sense that, hey, this is hurting business in Hampton Roads, everybody's suffering, and there is a solution. And saying it's a safety problem is just skirting the issue and is simply not true. So, Mayor, if you could be the messenger for your counterparts in the other cities to see if they would join us in adopting a similar resolution, I think that would be very effective.
All right, so noted. All right, Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. I do have a registered speaker on this item, but before I call the speaker up, I'd like to inform citizens that once the speaker has spoken, I will be opening it up to the floor because it is an item that was added at the last minute. The second issue, if you have signed up as a non-agenda speaker and you speak on this item, per council rules and procedures, you would not be allowed to speak as a non-agenda speaker, just to inform you in case you get up. Our registered speaker is Mr. Charles Greenhood.
Good evening, Mayor and council members, Mr. Rowe, Mr. Wilson. I really am delighted tonight. This resolution is a very strong positive step in the right direction, gives the Commonwealth, our governor, everybody involved, a clear message that we mean business. And the problem that this tunnel closure business has had is not just the loss of business now. If it's allowed to continue, it's going to cause tremendous losses in business in the future. People coming from the other side of Hampton Roads to Portsmouth it's been happening long enough where they've had changes in their attitudes. Some people don't even understand that the tunnel's closed just on weekends. Just the other day, last Wednesday, a gentleman was coming out of Town Bank and asked for directions for the Midtown Tunnel. And we explained where the Midtown Tunnel was, and he said, I can't wait until the tunnel reopens to Portsmouth. This was on Wednesday. He said the tunnel is open. Well, that's not what the billboard says coming from the beach. It says says 264 West closed, downtown tunnel closed. And then the next screen on this electronic billboard says Friday till Monday. So people are getting the wrong message. Actually, much has to be done. Hopefully, we can push VDOT and ERC to do the bidirectional traffic. And like Mr. Moody said, it's obviously it doesn't take a man with sight to realize that the smoke screen of safety issues is just a contrived excuse, and it's no way, because the Midtown Tunnel is bidirectional. The downtown tunnel has many times had bidirectional use when the tunnel had problems before. So, that excuse has just been debunked easily. Thing is that they're planning on, not just after May, but they're planning on another 40 weeks of tunnel closures going to the east side. And that's going to be extremely hurtful. So I hope this will cover everything. Maybe VDOT and the ERC will come to their senses and say, we don't want to fight this in court, because that's the next step. And they'll do the right thing and open up bidirectionally, which will certainly help a lot. But I think the city businesses are going to have to get together after this is all over, hopefully very shortly, and develop a plan for promoting Portsmouth, promoting that we're open, that we're not closed, that the tunnel is reopened. And because there are a lot of people who are going to take a long time to realize that this month and a half, 2-month episode of tunnel closures is at an end, and we are accessible. And I really thank you. You have done a wonderful job. I'm just so pleased. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Mr. Greenhead, just to let you know, when I spoke with the governor last night, I mentioned your business and the 50% impact you were having on your Sunday brunch. Also mentioned Roger Brown Sports Bar and our conversation, so he knows of Brudy's. And by the way, for the public, his chief of staff that he assigned this to, his name is Martin L. Kent, K-E-N-T, and I've got his number here if someone from the group Terrio wouldn't want to get that. But thank you, sir. Dr. Edmonds.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to tell Ms. Greenwood that our PR person has notified and put on television and on posters that there are alternative ways to get to Portsmouth. Maybe we need to do it more frequently, but it has been done. A lot of my friends found out about the closing that way and alternative routes to make. So as much as we can articulate that and share that until we get some resolve, that seems like a viable thing to do.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk?
Yes. Excuse me. At this time, if there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this item, please come forward, give your name and address, and you will be given 5 minutes to speak on this resolution.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, City Manager, City Attorney. Thank you. My name is Tony Goodwin, of course, reside in Parkview and representing the Old Town Business Association, but a big heartfelt thank you to your due diligence on this and getting this here tonight. And so we can obviously get back to work as our businesses are definitely in question here. So thank you again.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Seeing no additional speakers, this public hearing is closed. We have a motion. We're in need of a second. We have a motion and a second. Please conduct yourselves electronically. This item has been adopted 7-0. 13.
Okay, Ms. Simmons? We're still on items submitted by council. I think we've got a couple other items, but we wanted to get this resolution out first, and now the floor is yours, Ms. Simmons.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to bring to everybody's attention a whole lot of fun things that are happening in the city. For those of you who can get to Portsmouth, we encourage you to do so. In addition, of course, to all the 100th birthday celebrations for I.C. Norcom this weekend, and I'll encourage everybody to be on High Street for the parade that begins at 10 a.m. on Saturday morning. That's this Saturday, October 12th. The parade begins at 10 a.m. at I.C. Norcom and heads down the waterfront, down High Street, all the way to Crawford. So that's a fun, free activity. You can hit the farmer's market while you're downtown and some other things. But to back up, between now and the next council meeting, I just want to remind folks and get your pencils ready. This Thursday, October 10th, our city manager is having another one of his coffee talk with the city manager. Now, I want y'all to think about how many cities in Hampton Roads you know of where the city manager goes to a fire station at 7:30 in the morning and sits around and talks to anybody that shows up. Citizens, employees, kids, anybody. Takes the good, the bad, and the ugly. This coming Thursday, the 10th, our manager will be at the fire station number 4 on Broad Street. You don't have to live in Port Norfolk. You can live anywhere and go by, have a cup of coffee, visit the fire station, and tell the city manager what you think is good, bad, and ugly about the city. I'm sure you don't have any ugly. Also on Saturday, either before or after the Norcom Parade, we have a wonderful event that's been going on for many years in this city, which is our Chesapeake Bay Police Motorcycle Rodeo. And if you've never seen a motorcycle rodeo, I encourage you to go. It's not only our own police officers and members of the Sheriff's Department who ride motors, but there are motor groups from other police and Sheriff's Departments, not only from Virginia, but from out of state. And they do all sorts of sort of trick riding around cones and that sort of thing. It is a benefit for the March of Dimes. This year it will be at Bayside Harley-Davidson, which is at 2211 Frederick Boulevard, right there off the interstate. The actual competition begins at 8 o'clock Saturday morning. But if you want to go by there Thursday or Friday, this Thursday or Friday, you can see some of these teams practicing. It's amazing to watch. It's really neat. There'll be items for sale to benefit the March of Dimes. It's a fun event. Doesn't cost anything to go in and watch. For your calendar, also Saturday, the 19th of October, moving up a week. That weekend we'll have the Chesapeake Bay Schooner Race. The beautiful schooner boats will be on the downtown waterfront at High Street Landing and also at North Landing. There's a fall festival in Churchland at the Churchland Shopping Center from 10 to 4 that's free with all sorts of activities for kids. And if you're thinking ahead all the way to Halloween, the weekend of October 25th and 26th, that Friday night, is the Old Town Ghost Walk that's been going on about 20 years, which you line up at the Trinity Church at High and Court, and there are 2 sessions of ghost walks through Old Town. It is a fundraiser that the Old Town Civic League has been putting on for years. The money that they collect goes to benefit a lot of the activities in Old Town, like their parks and things like that. There's a pumpkin lighting contest going on at the museum at Court and High across the street. And then Saturday night, not only is it my birthday, but it's also it's also our special trick or treat. And this is a combination of the trick or treating that's been going on at Safety Town, which is now being combined with the trick or treating on High Street that's been put on by the Old Town merchants for some years. Because there's so many kids coming to both, we've got to corral them and keep them safe. And so High Street will be closed to vehicular traffic, and there'll be all sorts of police and sheriff's deputies out there keeping the kids and the pedestrians safe and giving out free candy, and that's from 6 to 8 p.m. on Saturday, October 26th. So a lot going on, lots of fun things to do in the city.
Absolutely. Well done. Let me also publicly, and I did this Saturday at the National Night Out function at Craddock and Afton Square, thank our police chief and the police department for an outstanding National Night Out year. We've had several events this year at different locations, starting at Wilson Ward Civic League, and then we moved over to Stone Ridge, and then I think we had Cavalier Manor, and then it ended Saturday at Crofton Square and Craddock, and it was well attended. Again, I want to thank all of our citizens for coming out, but Chief, your staff, and the committee that kind of thought outside the box and did something different this year, I want to applaud you. If you have feedback or comments that you want to pass on to us or the chief, please do so. Since we're out of the box, I'd like for us to stay out of the box and see if we can't do more things like that. So again, and it was well attended, and I want to thank everyone for their participation and all of our Civic League presidents and all of our citizens that attended. We also had Saturday a community day at Dale's Homes community, which was well attended, and we really appreciate the Housing Authority having these activities and being able to see and talk to all of the citizens and getting a chance to speak to your council members in a fun way or not so fun way. But it's extremely important that you come out and we come out, and we were all there in full force. Finally, I do want to thank the Portsmouth Baptist Association. Also Saturday, we had our Operation Inasmuch, and I think I mentioned to you last year, my first year attending was absolutely fascinating. We had over 300 members to sign up to volunteer last Saturday, and they washed, I think, somewhere in the neighborhood of about 100 cars. They did free oil change for seniors that couldn't get that service done, front end alignments, they did painting, screen door porches, and the Portsmouth Baptist Association is made up of about 39 churches. And it's great. I mentioned this at our Pretty Up Portsmouth event that we had that was held in conjunction with the Paint Your Heart Out. And I really want to applaud all of those churches and the Baptist Association for what you did and all of their members. I believe, Mr. Rowe, your church is one, and you
Yes,
guys
sir.
do an outstanding job. And did I miss some of the activities we did? Landscaping, there was a lot of automotive services, daycare, car wash, I think painting of homes and
Carpentry,
carpentry.
and there were some at laundromats, and they fed the washer and dryers for the customers there.
Right, okay. And then there was also a food, there was a collection of food that
Yes,
was
sir.
given and distributed out to the Oasis and the homeless folks. So again, Portsmouth Baptist Association, want to thank you for this operation Inasmuch. And again, they had 300 people Saturday to volunteer. That speaks volumes about us. And the goal from one of the people I was talking to is to get 1,000. And this is an annual event. So look it up, Operation Inasmuch. So thank y'all very much for that. And with that, Ms. Randall.
Yes, I just had to chime in. Since Councilwoman Simmons announced her birthday, I want you to know I'm a day older, because mine is the 18th of October. You notice I said a day older.
Well, happy birthday to both of you. Ms. Simmons?
Mayor, I think you might want to explain to the folks at home why you have pink fingernails.
Oh, you know what? I had a lot of things on my list to talk about, and I want to thank you, the Honorable Elizabeth Simmons, for bringing that up. But this month is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And while we were at Craddock for the National Night Out, there was also a booth set up with Mary J. Mary J's the singer. Okay, Mary Kay, and they were painting nails pink, and some little girls thought it would be really cool if the mayor got his nails painted pink. So I fell in line and got it done. And yesterday, when I shook the governor's hand at the mansion, he actually looked, but he didn't say anything. And I said to myself, I wonder what that guy's thinking. He said, that guy's got more problems than tunnel closures. But yes, this is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and thank you, Elizabeth, for bringing that out. And all of you that don't have your nails painted pink, please do so. Real men wear pink, by the way. Thank you. Madam Clerk.
13-425, report on pending items. We don't have any this evening. 13-426, non-agenda speakers. Our first speaker is Ms. Linda Ridenhour.
Call early enough, you always get to be first. Good evening, Mayor Wright, Vice Mayor Page. I'm Linda Ridenauer from Park Manor. I'm here tonight to give you information. A lot of it you're probably already aware of. I am currently a part-time worker at the Oasis Community Job Training Center. This is not the social ministry that's over there behind the health department. This is the old Tidewater Eye Center that's been turned into a job skill training center. I facilitate every month a 2-week workshop on entry-level job skills for the homeless. Every month there's anywhere from 10 to 15 clients that are enrolled in the workshop. They have training in CPR and first aid, pesticide certification, food safety handler certification, forklift operation and safety. We give them financial counseling and budgeting information. We help them get a email. We work on a resume. We do job search with them. Since March, when our new executive director came on board, 42 homeless citizens have been placed on entry-level jobs, and they're still there. And this is an increase of about 30 plus over last year's placement of homeless people in jobs. Councilwoman Simmons mentioned every date in October but one, so I'll take it from there. I'm here just to give you this information, and I'm sure you're all aware of it. I know that she is. October the 17th, 9 a.m. to 1:30. It's the 5th annual Portsmouth Homeless Assist Day. It'll be held at the Neighborhood Recreation Facility on 900 Elm Street, and we're expecting about 200 people. This event was initiated by the Portsmouth Homeless Action Consortium. It's local agencies concerned about service delivery to our Portsmouth homeless citizens. The event will provide information to the homeless about supportive network of community services and housing agencies, such as social services or Goodwill or the Veterans Affair and the social ministry at the Oasis behind the health department. So it's kind of been turned into a place of hope, because we do see good participation, attention, and learning happening, and then the placement of jobs for these people. Actually, I've run into a couple of my older students, not older than me, but, older students. So we hope you'll have a chance to stop by the event and see how it goes and see what we're trying to do for the homeless. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, and thank you for what you do.
Before I call the next speaker, I need to call up Ms. Bernadette Hall to give some additional information on Coffee Talk.
Well, I thank Ms. Simmons for taking my thunder for Coffee Talk. It's okay. It's from 7 to 8:30 at Station 4 Broad Street. We do ask the public to park behind the fire station so that the trucks, if they need to leave, will be able to get out. This is Thursday from 7 to 8:30. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Our next speaker is Ms. Terry Danaher.
The Greyhounds are leaving.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Madam Clerk, if I mention the transportation resolution just to say thank you, will the Sergeant at Arms throw me out?
We'll think about it.
I really, I was really relieved to hear that tonight. Thank you very much for making that happen. I really, really very much appreciate it, and the follow-up with other cities. I'm here to talk a little bit about transportation, but in another sense, as the Lefkoe Alumni Association is going to be having a transportation forum on October 16th at the Virginia Sports Hall of Fame. And Roderick Madison, who is our incoming LEFCO Alumni Association president, will be giving you more information after me. So I don't want to steal his thunder, so I won't say anything more, except it's a great opportunity to listen to some people who know what they're talking about. It will deal with the tunnel and tolls, but in a much broader sense, because at some point we're going to have to be dealing with this stuff no matter what the Supreme Court says. The other things I wanted to mention tonight were the farmers market, of course. I did want to say that the electric car show that we had a couple weeks ago was a huge hit. We were expecting maybe 6 cars, and we had, I think, 10 or 11. And the place was crawling with people who were just so happy that afterwards my vendors said, "Can we have another one, like every week?" So it was great because there were people there who came who had never been to the market, and now they know the market is there. And we got the same question that we've been asked for 2 years. "Oh, you're every Saturday?" "Yeah, for 2 years we've been every Saturday." So it was a great opportunity for us to market the market and for people to see what's going on in the electric car industry. So yeah, we would like to have another one sometime. The other thing is I just wanted to mention that fall hours have started. So it gets a little chilly in October, November. Having said that, it was 85 degrees this past Saturday, so much for that. So we start a little bit later because people don't come out to shop until later typically. The other thing I wanted to mention, and this is after October, so I'm not going to talk about any October dates now, is on November 2nd, Saturday, we are going to be having the Coast Guard City Portsmouth celebration. This is the celebration that has moved now from August, when it's very hot here, to our anniversary month in November. We will be having all kinds of exhibits, events, entertainment, and that will start at 11 o'clock at the Entellus Pavilion grounds, the festival park there, and last until 5. But there will be a healthy event before that because the Coast Guard is all about fitness, and Healthy Portsmouth has agreed to kick off the whole thing at 10 o'clock with a walk with the mayor, and our admirals from the Coast Guard will be joining us on that. And it will be, I think it's about a half-a-mile walk. It's not a really long walk. And then we get back to the festival grounds and open up everything. There'll be music and all kinds of entertainment. We also have the barbecue and slaw throwdown, which is the only activity of the day that costs anything. And we have to have some cost to that because we have to pay for it somehow. And that keeps it from being a taxable item. So we look forward to having people there. There is one last thing that goes with that. During the week leading up to the Coast Guard celebration, one of the things that has recently happened is that the World Cruising Club has moved to Portsmouth. And they have a week of activities. They're primarily educational activities, although they have a lot of entertainment going on because these are people who own yachts, and they're coming here with their yachts and their money, and they will be here eating, drinking, and being merry and learning a lot of stuff that they need to safely cruise. They will be here that whole week, and they're leaving on November 3rd. So if you come on the 2nd to the Coast Guard celebration, you'll get to see all those yachts out there too, which is a big plus, and then you can watch them sail away the following day. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Let me just say, Terry, you mentioned the electric vehicles. That was National Plug-in Day, and I did not know it at the time, but they actually left the farmers market and came over to Cavalier Manor, where they were having their recognition for National Night Out. And I think we had somewhere about that same number of vehicles, but I was told afterwards that the city of Portsmouth was the only city in this region that recognized National Plug-in Day, and we had quite a few people that came out to look at all those electric vehicles. And I think we owe a great deal of gratitude to Mark Godoji Yatrosky. Is he here in the room? He actually coordinated that and got those vehicles here, and it was quite educational. There were several private owners that brought their vehicles. Also Dominion Power, I see former Councilman Ray Smith there. They had a couple of vehicles. One of their operational trucks, the actual boom is electric operated. We tried to load test it and put the mayor in it, but that didn't work out. But and then he had one of the vehicles there. So it was well attended and very educational. I don't know how many people understand that whole concept, but I thank you for bringing that up.
Our next speaker is Roderick Madison.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Vice Chair, Vice Mayor, and City Council members. My name is Roderick Madison. I'm here on behalf of the LEFCO Alumni Association. I am the incoming president, as Terry explained earlier. And what I'm here to do today is invite the City Council members, as well as the members of the citizens of Portsmouth, to our transportation forum, which is called Tolls and Tunnels, the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. I believe you stole that from me, but we'll let you slide this time. We're going to have Delegate Matthew James there, Senator Kenneth Alexander, William Harrell, who's the president and CEO of Hampton Roads Transit.
Harrell.
I'm sorry, Harrell. And Dwight Farmer, the executive director of Hampton Roads Planning Commission. And what this is going to be is just going to be a forum where some different questions can be asked, and it's going to be moderated by Mr. Joel Rubin of Rubin Communications. It's not a bash session. It's just to put information out to the public and answer a few questions, such as how we're going to handle congestion, how it is going to impact the local economy, how we as Portsmouth citizens can stay competitive, how the tolls and tunnels will be affected regionally, alternate modes of transportation, future development, employment, and lastly, those of whom an easy pass is unattainable or an unreasonable price to pay. So again, I invite you out. That event is on Wednesday, October 16th, 2013. It's from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. at the Virginia Sports Hall of Fame Museum. And we would like to see you as city council members out there, but more especially the citizens of Portsmouth there as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mathers. And let me first of all say, you look good out of uniform, sir.
Madison.
Okay.
Thank you.
I don't know if you're aware, but maybe you can use that during your panel discussion. We had our 14th State of the Region address last week. Dr. Jim Cook, former president of Old Dominion University, conducts that regional State of the Region every year for 14 years, and he was emphatic about tolls, and I think his terminology would be the death recipe for Hampton Roads economic development, the death recipe. Now, there's conversation about future projects. As you know, we all serve on the TPO. I am the representative for the city of Portsmouth, and there's conversation about all types of other projects in the system. We've got to find a way to put our caps together and really come up with a way that we can be able to put these projects into place and also be able to grow our cities, all of our cities, not one hurt because of the other. So Dr. Cook went into great detail with that, and he also, by the way, and he mentioned that he would step on toes. He normally does. He made a comment that most of our municipalities here are not spending the dollars in the right places. We too often develop and build things that we think is great for our city, and all we've done is taken money from some other city to our city and vice versa. And what we need to be focusing on is bringing businesses in here in this region and new money. And I think his analogy was, you don't think people are coming all the way from Richmond to the new Chick-fil-A. I think he was talking about our Chick-fil-A in Portsmouth, because we've got the best. But thank you for bringing that up, and please make sure that we have that discussion. I want to invite all of our citizens to come out to do that, because we really need good ideas on how to approach these, because these projects need to happen. We've got 1.7 million people in this region, another 300,000 coming in the next 20 years, according to the Urban Land Institute. So we've got to find a way to handle these transportation issues, and getting things crammed down our throat or backdoor deals and all of that is not the way to get it done. So thank you, LEFCO leadership, and congratulations, Mr. President.
Thank you.
All right.
Our next speaker is Jaden Barnes.
Oh, my. Help him out, Mr. President.
My name is Jaden Jaden Barrington. I live at 218 Boat Street. I just came up here to say that I would like to have a multicultural community center built in Truxton. It will help kids like me with programs like ridding the dangerous gangs and will even help me with my basketball shot. Please tell all the children south side of Portsmouth and build us a community center. Thanks, Mayor and City Council.
Right, thank you, Jaden. Very good job. Good job, young man. All right. Okay.
Our next speaker is Robin Dove.
Robin Duff.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I would like to speak on the community center for Truxton. I think it's vital that the community center be built because there's a lot of children that has nowhere to play and no safe place to play. By building the community center in Truxton, it will provide a place for all the children to play. Right now, most of the children where they play in their community, a community where we live, whether it's a single parent or a parent to parent family. Children do need a place to play. Right now, playing outside, having no constructive recreation, it causes a lot of crime for younger children. So I'm asking that the community center be built in the city of Portsmouth, in the Truxton area, that will help benefit all the surrounding neighborhoods, that all the kids can benefit so they can have something constructive to do with their free time instead of having non-constructive activities that will lead to crime and violence. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, very much.
Our next speaker is Anthony Gallup.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
How you doing, Mayor? Right. Mr. Mayor Wright, excuse me, and Vice President, Mr. Chair, Mayor Chair. My name is Anthony Gallup. I'm a resident of Portsmouth. I want to come here, and I guess I'm going to piggyback off the lady that just left here, and young man, Mr. Barnes. I was raised in this city. I pretty much, I know about this city. I've been living here pretty much all my life. And I guess a little bit of words that I wanted to say. Like I said, my name is Anthony Gallup, and I'm a resident of this city, and I do believe that we need that community center. And for the main purposes of, like she was just saying, you know, it's a lot of children, you know, all they've ever seen when they wake up, you know, all they see is violence downtown. As far as what I've been seeing in this city, I mean, there's been a lot of changes. There's been a lot of things that they've been trying to do to help, you know, little programs and everything else. But if you live, I speak for the inside, if you live inside these communities, then you see that these families, they struggle, you know, these mothers, they struggle, these single parent homes, they struggle. And having a community center, you know, that would pretty much cover pretty much all of downtown, you know, downtown Portsmouth, you know, some like 14,000 kids. We need that, you know, we need that. We need another avenue, another place where they can go and get education outside of school, get, you know, those social tools that they can build, being around other children, like you said, can play, you know, where they're not in the streets, where there's other people out there doing things that are not the example that they want to have or the example that we want our children to have. We just, you know, to speak on some other things, and not to step on any toes or anything like that, but we done just spent, what, maybe $900,000 to help out the police department and the fire department, you know, for raises, 1.2 for the sheriffs, the containment of the new court. You know, we borrowed $25 million for what, 400 seniors to trying to help out. I mean, what's not to help when it comes down to these 14,000 children, our downtown area? Why wouldn't we, if we want to invest in our future, why wouldn't we invest in the future? You know, we keep telling kids that the sky's the limit, but we've been to the moon years ago. So it's limitless potential for what our kids can do. But we just have to be able to give them a place where they can go, a place where, they can actually be at and have that type of environment. And like I said, I only speak from what I've seen and what I see. I have a daughter here, and my daughter, she'll be 5 next month, and my main purpose is to make sure I can provide a future for her. And I love my city. And I know that my voice and other voices, we do what we need to, and we come together, we can make some things happen. But we need you to help us out. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Well done. Dr. Edmonds?
Yes, Mayor, I just want to tell Mr. Gallup, we hear what you're saying, and all the speakers that always come up to talk about recreation. We need some immediacy in some areas of recreation. Even if we would try to talk about building right now, it'd be about a 2-year, 3-4-year project. But we need to brainstorm about something that we can do immediate, like opening up the schools, gymnasium that's in the areas located around, until such time we're able in better able position to make sure that we can move ahead. But we hear you. Every time someone comes up and talk about rec centers, we really hear you, and we're not just falling on deaf ears.
Thank you, Dr. Edmonds. Ms. Randall?
I think one of the things is we keep going back saying the same thing, and Dr. Edmonds, I commend you because that was the purpose of many of the recreational areas being added on to the school grounds. If you recall, that was a brainstorm when we said modernizing our schools and broadening the acreage around where kids could have inside and outside activities. I think we need to follow through with some of those plans, and then we would be assured of our children having ample facilities to utilize. Now, there are some areas where you may not have schools because of the zoning, where you need those recreational areas where those children can play in, that they are not living near where a school is built. But I concur. We need to look at the areas where the largest density of children, we have them, and provide activities for them. Until we get the facilities, we need to make sure that we utilize some of the school facilities that are available, because they are utilized after school. That's when the children are home. So I think we just need to put our heads together and do a little bit more brainstorming and planning and figure out how we can meet the needs of our children, because they are going to be the leaders here when we all gone. And we need to make sure they have the right tools to lead our city forward.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank
Randall.
you.
Madam Clerk?
Our next speaker is Dolores Knight.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, City Attorney, City Manager. My name is Dolores Knight. Well, this week we've learned that the sheriff had inmates to take and deliver a tent, some chairs, and table to a function for Vice Mayor Cherry. The news was accompanied by photographs of the delivery taken by a neighbor who lived a couple of doors down from the function. It's been said that a member of the council supplied the photos. I don't know who it was, but I put together a list to try to figure this out. Well, I do know that some of these would not do things like this, so I really had to think hard about this. It's been said that a member of council had supplied the photographs, so who could this be? I do not know who it was, but I think maybe Bishop Edmonds and Councilman Randall wouldn't do anything like this. They're too sweet and they do such good things. Councilman Moody and Meeks and Councilwoman Simmons are allies of Vice Mayor, so I know they wouldn't do such a thing. That only leaves two. And obvious reasons Vice Mayor Cherry wouldn't do this. He has to be eliminated. So who is the snitch on the council? Well, I'll leave that up to the answer for you all to have these inquisitive minds to figure this out, because I still haven't got the right answer quite yet. So can we decide who this was? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Knight.
Our next speaker is Mark Godot-Diatrovsky.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, honorable members of council, and fellow citizens. I wasn't going to speak to the issue the previous speaker raised, but considering what I saw at Dale Homes Community Days, might have been a camera mounted on a drone. I want to speak to you about the legislative package going to the General Assembly. I was sad to see that one of the items I submitted, actually all of the items I submitted, were excised. So much for citizen input, but I'm not willing to give up on this one. And it could benefit y'all. It could make you stop looking small and hypocritical and get a burden off your backs that you were never really ready to shoulder in the first place. I'm talking about school funding. The great mistake that the General Assembly made when it allowed for elected school boards was it didn't give them any money to call their own. Everything that flows through them at the end of the fiscal year must go back to its point of origin. An exception was made in the last General Assembly session, and I think it was mostly guilty conscience. The General Assembly said certain funds, if they were not fully expended by the end of the year, could be held by the school board as a one-time exemption. That was to offset the fact that for another consecutive year, the General Assembly reduced funding for the schools across the Commonwealth. So that was sort of their consolation prize. But what I proposed in the legislative packet, and what I urge you to consider including before you lock it in at your next council meeting, is to ask the General Assembly to give them their own revenue source. Then you no longer have to appropriate money. They have their own. And this is not a radical idea other than in this Commonwealth, with over 400 years of history, relatively unmarred by progress. In the state of Florida, where I attended high school my last 2 years, every county, which was the base of the school systems in Florida, had its own school taxing authority. There are other states in this great nation of ours that have similar funding arrangements. So I would ask you to include that provision in the package, understanding that the first time it goes to the General Assembly, it's not likely to get adopted. But, you know, after what, 20-some years of trying, they finally passed a transportation funding package last year. So if you grind away and grind away and grind away, the right things can happen. Let me say this. I'm going to out you, Mr. Meeks. Mr. Meeks and I had an extended garage conversation a couple of weeks back, and I was gratified to learn that both of us believe some things in common about the schools. We share the view that the greatest economic development engine in this city or any locality is education. If we do not do right by education, we are all going to suffer. Those of us who are close, as I am, or already there, drawing Social Security benefits, we are not going to do well if the people paying into it, the young working folks who will be coming out of the schools shortly, are earning their money by flipping burgers and doing low-paid service jobs. We need to ensure that they get a first-rate education and are capable of working in a globally competitive world. So please reconsider and include that on October 22nd. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Moody?
Thank you, Mayor. To the speaker's point, he's talking about education, and I didn't catch it all this morning, left too early, but there was a report about the state of Massachusetts and how they have really put an emphasis statewide on education and the new standards of learning. Instead of complaining about gee, we're doing bad because the bar has been raised, well, they set out to attack the bar, and consequently, their test scores and their graduation rates have increased tremendously. In fact, I believe they would even be in the top 10, maybe even the top 5 ranking compared with some countries as far as their kids improving in their level of education. So, you know, people who say we're not doing good because they raised the bar need to look towards Massachusetts to see what they've done and see what we can achieve if we make it a statewide initiative. I agree with you, the state needs to step up to the plate. I'm not too certain about having, and I vacillate on that, about the school board having taxing authority. A lot of people say, well, gee, one government hand in my pocket is one too many. I can't imagine putting 2 hands in my pocket. Is that going to cost me more money? So I think the key is spend what money you get efficiently and make sure the rubber meets the road to the classroom, not to the administrative level. Let's keep it at the teacher, the student level, and improve education in that manner. I'm not certain about the additional taxing authority. I think our people are taxed to death. And in fact, former President Carter today issued a statement saying the middle class today is about equal to what the poverty level was when he was president. That's how much decline economically has occurred in the middle class in this country. Combination of inflation and tax increases. So I think we need to be very careful when it comes to that. But as always, thank you for your comments.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk?
May I
Sure.
make a short response to that? I'm a believer that we need to get every penny's worth of value out of every tax dollar that we claim from our citizens. To me, education is the strategic investment. It is where we have not focused in this country adequately. And if we get left behind as a global competitor, the decline of the middle class will become an avalanche. So we have to do the right things, the smart things, and the effective things in terms of education spending.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Donna Sy.
Good evening. My name is Donna Sy. I live in the Woodbine Farm section of Churchland. Principles of Liberty 10. The God-given right to govern is vested in the sovereign authority of the whole people. Sir William Blackstone had written the concept of personal rights of man when he said, "These great natural rights may be reduced to three primary articles: the right of personal security, the right of personal liberty, and the right of private property." Frederick Bastiat wrote that man's personal rights are actually those which relate to its life itself, and that the preservation of these rights is primarily a matter of self-preservation. He said, "We hold from God the gift which includes all others. This gift is life, physical, intellectual, and moral life. But life cannot maintain itself alone. The Creator of life has entrusted us with the responsibility of preserving, developing, and perfecting our life. In order that we may accomplish this, He has provided us with a collection of powers of the mind, will, reason, and talent. He has put us in the midst of a variety of natural resources. By the application of our mind, we convert these natural resources into products and use them. This process is necessary in order that life may run its appointed course. Life, mind, production. In other words, individuality, liberty, property, this is man. And in spite of the cunning of artful political leaders, these three gifts from God precede all human legislation and are superior to it. Life, liberty, and property do not exist because men have made laws. On the contrary, it was the fact that life, liberty, and property existed beforehand that caused men to make laws for the protection of them in the first place. Divine law endows mankind with personal duties as well as personal rights. There are two kinds of duties, public and private. Public duties relate to public morality and are supported by local or state ordinances which can be enforced by police power. Private duties are those which exist between the individual and his creator. These are called principles of private morality. The only enforcement agency is the self-discipline of the individual himself. We have a duty to perform civic responsibilities, vote, assist public officials, serve in official capacities when called upon, stay informed on public issues, volunteer where needed. We have the duty to support personal and public standards of common decency. We have the duty to follow rules of moral principles. The God-given right to govern is vested in the sovereign authority of the whole people. Were the whole people invited to the table in order to apply their God-given right to govern in the following example? The director and assistant director of the Parks and Recreation confronted the chairman of the Civic League in a cavalier manner at the swimming pool. They told him they were going to put a Head Start program in the rec center because it was underutilized. Why was there no notification of this action given to the whole people? The rec center is public property. The citizens of Portsmouth pay taxes that support this center. It is a place designed to provide an environment to bring the community together, a place for children, teens, adults, families, and seniors to socialize and exercise. The director and assistant director had the duty and responsibility to host a variety of classes, events, and workshops year-round. With a combined salary of almost $182,000, they should be able to plan and implement all kinds of programs involving every age group from early childhood to 50+. Programs that would include everything from dance and drawing to parenting tips and cooking classes. The center can provide multi-fitness rooms, game rooms, and athletic fields for the community members. The rec center is different from a Head Start program. The Head Start program is a federal program that promotes the school readiness of children ages birth to 5 from low-income families by enhancing their cognitive, social, and emotional development. The recreation staff are not trained to provide these services. The Office of Head Start is within the administration of children and families of the Department of Health and Human Services. There are at least 4 issues here. What benefits are the taxpayers receiving from the huge salaries of the director and assistant director? Did they not know they needed to communicate with the community about the underuse of the rec center? Why not? Where are policies to guide the use of the rec center? Was social service notified of the implementation of the Head Start program? Why or why not? In closing, we need to remember, our leaders are but trusted servants. They do not govern. Thanks for listening.
Our next speaker is Walter Bell.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor,
Sir,
Mr.
how are
Vice
you?
Mayor, members of City Council, Mr. Rowe, Mr. Wilson. My name is Walter Bell. I'm a resident of Port Norfolk. And I'd like to speak about the Trap Neuter Release Program at the Portsmouth Humane Shelter that was highlighted in a recent article of the Virginian Pilot. I applaud the hard work of the employees and volunteers of the Portsmouth Humane Shelter for maintaining a no-kill facility. It's a noble goal. Part of this, though, is the Trap Neuter Release Program, which establishes feral cat colonies around the city. Trap Neuter Release, also called TNR, is flawed. I encourage the city to look into both sides of the issue before endorsing or allowing it to continue in our city. I'm sure the Humane Society can provide a passionate discussion in favor of the Trap Neuter Release Program, but I'd like to bring up some concerns. First of all, this practice appears to violate several city codes, such as keeping wild animals unconfined, harboring stray animals, the 7-day rule, providing adequate care, and nuisance by number of animals. But most important, the requirement for rabies vaccinations and boosters. Trap Neuter Release typically provides one rabies shot before release, but does not follow up with boosters for the animals under the care of the people managing these cat communities. Free roaming cats do account for most cases of human rabies exposure to domestic animals, and nationwide cat rabies has increased become, as the Trap Neuter Release movement became more widespread, there was a bump up in cat rabies and is maintained at a higher level. It's not necessarily a cause and effect, but an interesting coincidence. There's also an effect on wildlife. Portsmouth is a bird sanctuary, and where they've done studies in California of parks that had cat populations, they've noticed that there's been a reduction by one half of bird and native mammal populations. However, interestingly, the non-native mammal populations, like the Norway rats, have increased by 7 times. There could be possible explanations for this. One is they're attracted to the food that's put out for the cats. Another is that their competition is removed by the cats, the native populations. So I would just point out that from personal observation, a well-fed cat is a very adequate and successful hunter. And conversely, a cat colony that is not maintained with adequate food is forced to hunt. So I encourage the no-kill policy, but I suggest that the city work through managing some of these concerns with respect to the Trap Neuter Release. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Moody.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Jeffries, you don't have to come back, but did want to make you aware that staff is looking into that situation, briefed us tonight on it, on some decisions that have been made, and hopefully it can be resolved in a manner that pleases everyone. Thanks.
Our next speaker is Regina Black.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Regina Black, and I reside at 512 Yorktown Avenue here in the city of Portsmouth. I am speaking on behalf of the Uptown Neighborhood Concerned Citizens. Around about my late 20s and early 30s, I trained as a CASA. A CASA is a court-appointed advocate for abused and neglected children. And what a CASA does is, a CASA's main job is to protect the child at all costs and report to the judge as to where that child is to be placed, and to make sure that the child is not put in any harm, hurt, or danger from their parents or whoever caused them harm. So therefore, I wanted to talk again about your behavioral health care program that you have planned to put in my neighborhood. It is not about that program. It is the reality of it. It is about the behavior of heroin addicts. And they go off, that's the nature of that addiction. And it does not belong across the street from IC Norcom High School. It does not belong across the step for where the children at Parkview Elementary School catch the bus. It does not belong there. It does not belong across the street from my 83-year-old mother's house. It does not belong there. It was a bad decision from the beginning to put it there because the school was there and the children are there. Our children in IC Norcom High School are worthy. We have enough problem with test scores and everything else where our children have to contend with that in the morning when 100 heroin addicts are gonna be there when they go to school. This is the reality of that. It does not belong there. It does not go there. And our children are worthy. I was privileged to see 2 weeks ago the brand new, I don't know if it's brand new, but it was new to me. It's a new methadone clinic in Churchland. Someone took me there. It just opened up. Great place. It's not around a school. It's not around a bus stop. Went there. They drove me right to it. So I was glad to see that that's off, but I don't understand why we need another one across the street from my house, across the street from the school, and across the street from the bus stops. Our children are worthy. And I'm advocating, just like that CASA I trained for. I'm advocating to protect our children. I am advocating for the protection of what the nature of the addiction brings. I'm not talking about the program. I'm not talking about the state regulations and what they have to do. I'm talking about the reality of this here, is that those heroin addicts are gonna be out there when the children are at the bus stop and going to school. And our children are worthy. And I don't believe that the children, parents of IC Norcom High School, I don't believe that this has registered with them, that they don't understand the impact of that. And the ones that pop, I really don't understand that. But soon, and very soon, everyone will understand. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Alan Jeffries.
Hey, good evening. I'd like to talk about the community center. Good evening, everybody, but I'd like to talk about the community center in Truxton neighborhood. It's some things that I wrote down, and I'd like to read them to y'all, okay? The first thing is opportunity. And the definition of opportunity is an appropriate or favorable time or occasion, a situation or condition favorable for attainment of a goal, a good position, a chance, a prospect as for advancement or success. That's the Webster Dictionary for it. And I would like to tell you about opportunity. Opportunity can come in various forms. When we receive a job, someone can give you an opportunity. That second or third chance is also an opportunity. The success of a parent or loved one being outstanding at a company that people believe will provide that same service and award you that same opportunity. Opportunity might come from being a great scholar in school and applying yourself with hard work, placing you in a good position for advancement or future success. So we acknowledge without opportunity, many things for ourselves will not be able to happen. But let's go to the children. A child comes home from school with the nightly homework from his school. He has difficulty understanding the work. He comes from a single parent household where his parents have to work long, tiresome hours just to provide for him. There he sits at home trying to figure this homework out. Slipping in his grades, his parents become upset with his progress, and he ends up having more bad grades. In lieu of this situation, where is the opportunity for him to obtain a goal of being successful in school? Instead, the child becomes frustrated with his circumstances and decides to take his future into his own hands and cuts his opportunity short by living the nightlife of clubs, drugs, and gangs. It has been determined that when a person does something repeatedly, they begin to become more comfortable with the situation. Why should this even be a factor when there is an answer for today's trouble youth? The idea of a community center. serving as a safe haven with positive role models, tutoring, and a place to empower our young men and women for the future. Without a community center, their opportunities begin to come more and more for the success of the streets. If the final answer is friends seeing their friends getting shot, people stealing from each other, and it's acceptable not to have a job, then where is the full equation? Therefore, is it rational to accept the outcome of achievement be favorable for them? How can you talk secondary education for enrollment in college when their surroundings which they live glorify drugs being sold? With the community center in the Truxton neighborhood, we can teach the youth that it is more than life than going to the corner store and being the biggest hustler on the block or driving the hottest car in the neighborhood. That's considered hood rich. What about being rich on knowledge and opportunity? That college is not just a dream, but it can be obtained through hard work and dedication. Homework can be accomplished through tutors, and you can get advice on situations that may arise through Christ counselors. Some have voiced that the time is not right for a community center, so you chose to vote opposed to this idea. The question is, when will be a suitable time? Opportunity has presented itself in this form to better our communities, our youth, and the gift of peace of mind. Don't you think the children of the community deserve an opportunity? When you want to be situated in a good status for advancement or success? I heard the young man, DeAndre Barnes, speak on TV a few weeks ago. He told a story that really touched my heart. And he's trying to do this for our children. And as he overcame obstacles that he was there, and he's here today to speak on that. Most of us are pointing fingers at him, asking him why is he wasting his time or just being plain judgmental. Instead of asking the question, let us know how we can produce more stories like this. And I'd just like to share with you, Theodore Roosevelt wrote in a speech, and it was called The Citizens in a Republic. I'll just read a small portion of that. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of the deeds could have done him better. The credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred with dust, sweat, and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasm, the great devotion, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at his best knows the end of triumph of high achievement, and who at his worst, if it fails, at least he fails daring and greatly, so that his place should never be with those cold and timid souls who never know victory nor defeat.
Thank you, sir.
Please don't be those cold and timid souls.
Thank you. Good job. Madam Clerk.
Our next speaker is Francis Jones.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. I'm here again. And I'm here about the building that you have decided to place in front of my lovely home. That was built in 1890. Boy, I love you guys. I just love you guys. I'm just laughing all the way to the bank. And you know one thing? It's amazing what you guys do. On September the 9th, you had the gall to show your meeting. All the imperfection of the facts that was wrong. You had a meeting today, and you did the same thing. You see the pictures that you put in here? I moved in that neighborhood 9 years ago, and that's the first time it was ever cleaned up. You understand that? And that was 2 weeks ago, and I lived there for 9 years. 9 years in this great city of Portsmouth, cleaning it up one time in 9 years. All to have a brochure that says, oh, the crime in that area, we are doing this. 9 years. Now you wonder why I'm laughing. Who's the joke's on? You keep putting out information that's wrong. I just love you guys. I really do. The before and after. You should think
Let's use wisdom in this situation. You have a high school with kids. You have a bus stop by my home, kids. You have heroin addict, kids. You have murderers, kids. You have rapists, kids. You have alcoholics, kids. But yet you sit there and you don't care because you have decided to put it in front of my home, my neighborhood, not Crystal Lake. Maybe we should shift the demographics of this and say, hey, wow, let's do a study of Crystal Lake. Hey, that'd be a nice place to put it. Hey, no crime, low crime. That's what you're saying here, where my car was broken into. I love you guys. I'm a taxpayer and I'm a homeowner. And you know what else? I'm one of them crazy government workers that was furloughed too. Yeah, me, yours truly, immigrated to your great city of Portsmouth to get slapped in the face. Well, I never been on drugs, I don't drink, never drank, and I don't smoke cigarettes. So, let me tell you one thing. Let's be reasonable, people. This is serious business. This is very serious. If you never walk in my shoes, hear that silence? Think. Sometimes you do things irrationally. Sometimes things look good, but it's not. You understand what I'm saying? And another thing, what I like about this democratic society, I am a taxpayer and I'm a voter. And I had the opportunity today to look up on the internet how to recall. Democratic society. Recall. I think that'll get somebody's attention. I know how to do a recall. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Recall. 8, 9. Recall. Hey, it took one crazy woman to took prayer out of the public school. Then the public school went to hell in a handbasket. They're all crazy. Kids are going crazy everywhere. But the most important thing is, let's preserve life. Let's put this center by the sheriff's office. And by the way, I met the sheriff when he was cleaning up this with the prisoners. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Our last speaker is Athena Jones.
Good morning, Honorable Mayor, Honorable Council. I too am here to discuss the methadone clinic that you are interested in and that you are very willing to go full throttle and spend $10.4 million to put in front of my house, to put in a neighborhood that is 1 block away from the Oasis, Safe Haven, to put a block away from 2 other social service programs, and then less than a block away from IC Norcom High School. Now, we all sitting here listening to the magnanimous statements of education. We continue to listen to all the great things because the education platform is an easy platform for any politician to get on. It's an easy platform for anyone to support. But when it comes down to the full aspect of education, then things start to fall apart. 25% of IC Norcom High School students will not graduate in 2014. By the 3rd grade, they've decided how many private prisons to create. So let's talk about education. Let's talk about the fact that you are all in support of education. But yet, you are willing to interfere with the opportunity of these students because you want to spend $10.4 million, not for Truxton, sorry Truxton, 35 years later, Truxton was used to be its own city, they can't even get a center. But the methadone clinic that will fulfill not just methadone, but other services will get $10.4 million spent on them. So don't sit up there and talk about education when in reality there are agendas. When in reality is that we are positioning ourselves so that we can say we can help the community of people who have addictions. We can help the community of people who are homeless. We can help the community where we're talking about adults. When do you think these things come into play? When they are children, when they're going to Parkview Elementary School, when they're going to IC Norcom, that's when these issues start. But yet education is something we all want to talk about. Education begins to be a moot point, Pastor Edmund. Education begins to be a two-way street, Mr. Moody. Education begins to be an agenda, Mr. Rowe. Education cannot be an agenda. Education has to be something we as Portsmouth people believe in and believe it wholeheartedly. As honorable individuals of this council. So if we are honorable in Portsmouth, if we are respecting each other and our voices in Portsmouth, then we need to get a better perspective on education and not just talk about education, but be the forerunners and demanding so that other kids can come here from Portsmouth schools and say, I invented this. From other kids from Portsmouth schools can say, I can be on the presidential council for the nation. Where are our students now? Fighting for bus stops. Fighting to survive because we don't have a proper place for them to go after school. Throwing them to the side because there are other things that are important. $10.4 million, not to education, but to an agenda. That is a shame. This is not a two-way street. It is not a two-issue street. The issue is $10.4 million is not being spent for kids. It's being spent on a methadone clinic less than a block away from children. Where is your sense of education? Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilman Moody.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't want to address the last speaker, but a citizen made me aware about a week ago that October is National Bullying Month. And I know that we've seen cases in the news. We've seen a local case up in Gloucester just about a month ago where a young girl, school-age girl, took her life because she had been bullied, been treated horribly in school, been put in a wastebasket, been called names, been attacked on the social media. So bullying is a national problem, hence October is National Anti-Bullying Month. So I just wanted to make people aware of that. You know, if you got any examples of that or that's a problem, I know our school system has a hotline, I believe, where people can call that number to report those cases. But anyway, just wanted to bring it to everybody's attention.
Okay.
Mayor.
Yeah, Mr. Meeks.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want John could tell us where the money's coming from for the behavioral health care.
It's coming primarily from a bond issue that council authorized more than 8 years ago.
Thank you.
Anything else for the good? All right, we're adjourned. Thank y'all.